It is finally time to cue the cool running of Hauss Hejny. Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. Get on up. It's Cowboy football time. As our new defensive coordinator, Todd Grantham, would say, don't flinch because belt-to-ass season is about to commence.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first entire year. We get to jump right into this conversation of the Hauss Sauce Express. Rolls on station today, and I expect the Zane train to have a pretty dang good day as well. But now we get to find out, is the hype train legitimately coming on board for Hauss Hejny? Are we going to believe it with our very own eyes? I feel very strongly that the locker room has been very open with the fact that Hauss Hejny has the it factor. He's a JW level gamer that is going to scrape, scratch, bleed, whatever he needs to do to get those extra yards to win a ball game. The Zane train, the expectations are high. So this is a good opportunity for both of these young men to get out there and prove themselves. However, I do think that there's a potential that Hauss Hejny being named the starter has something to do with the offensive line. The offensive line was a massive department of risk last year for the quarterback room and the running backs, which is precisely why Ollie Gordon was getting hit in the backfield 51.8% of the time, 90% through the season. We have to find a way to get the offensive line a little bit more dialed in. Does that mean that both Hauss Hejny and Zane Flores might be running for their lives a little bit? It is possible. If you look at the last year's offensive line woes, it makes some sense. So when it comes to concerns, that might be the biggest concern of all of them. Is the offensive line going to be able to come together, gel quick enough, good enough to get this Oklahoma State offense off the ground in this game and preparing for Oregon? The elusivity of Hauss Hejny is something that none of us can wait to see on display. The evolutionary processes that Zane Flores has gone through is important. But going back to these biggest concerns, I don't think that is a big concern. The next big concern, other than the offensive line, probably has to be the DBs. Oklahoma State was 132nd last year in pass defense. I don't necessarily think that UT Martin is going to try to chunk it all over the yard on us 24/7. But if they do, this is a big moment for this secondary. You bring in Jules Montanar, you upgrade Greg Brown. You've been able to bring in some other pieces from the safety room. DeAndre Boykins comes in from North Carolina. Parker Robertson has an additional year. Cam Smith is going to be a captain today, playing the cornerback spot. Are we going to get to see some flashes of brilliance from guys like Jalen Davies and Cale Smith and J.K. Johnson and Mordecai McDaniel, Parker Robertson? I think you can even look to the back end of Oklahoma State as a massive problem this previous season. And it could be a multitude of reasons why. It could have been personnel. It could have been the starting group. It could have been play calling. It could have been systematic flaws. Whatever the case may be, Oklahoma State is not going to put themselves in a position to be successful if they don't shore up the back end of that defense. Firm believer in Jules Montanar, firm believer in Todd Grantham, and this don't flinch mentality that he's brought to Stillwater, Oklahoma. For all you fine folks out here on YouTube, you can see that we've got a couple don't flinch signs hanging up behind us. That is the calling card. That is another expectation that we need to see this season. And another big concern, likely, I think, is going to be just the health of the wide receiver room. We've had a couple dudes banged up here and there. We've had a couple offensive linemen banged up here and there, which is another reason why I think it is at least a little bit of a concern. If you had everybody healthy, perhaps the offensive lineman wouldn't be that big of a deal. But coming off this previous season, it's massively important. The defensive backfield getting absolutely cooked more often than not. Extremely concerning coming into the season. And then I think lastly, I want to see the management of the game. I want to see the offensive play calling and defensive play calling to some degree be a little bit of a chess match. An aggressive level of chess match, sure. We're okay with that. That seems to be everything we've heard thus far out of fall camp is the intensity, the physicality, the willingness to mix it up all day, every day, no matter who is on the field and where you stack up on the depth chart. That is something that we need to see. And if we get burnt occasionally, we've already discussed, I'm okay with it. I just do not want to see an offense that is so predictable that most everybody watching the ball game knows precisely what's likely about to happen. Unfortunately, under Casey Dunn's tutelage, that was very, very commonplace. I'm not the only one. I guarantee half of us have yelled at the TV, do not hand the ball off up the middle. Do not run a wide receiver screen here. But it was an inevitable course of action for Casey Dunn to essentially telegraph what was about to happen. I want to see a massive differentiation today. Are we going to open the playbook and use an exorbitant number of plays? Probably not. Likewise, defensively, are we going to get super creative with some of the blitz packages and the pressures? Probably not. But we need to do enough that shows that there is definitely a difference between this current staff and the previous staff. The predictability offensively has got to be out the window. The aggressiveness defensively has to come into play. It is time to put all of the chips down on the table, go all in on Cowboy football being entirely different this season. So naturally, for all you fine folks out here on YouTube, let me know down in the comments section, what are some concerns, right? Is it offensive line, defensive backfield, and the ability in play calling? Where else do you see some potential needs or some potential concerns? And all you out here in podcast country, well, follow me at Aldeo State or come check out the YouTube so you can see these don't flinch signs. I think that there's going to be shirts made. If not, somebody needs to go ahead and run with this thing. But this is the calling card for Todd Grantham to this defense. Do not flinch, because if you flinch, it shows weakness, and we are not a weak football team. We're not going to be a weak football team. This is the time to put it all out there. Is Hauss Hejny going to be the real deal? Is the offensive line going to be improved, or at least show signs that they're capable of improvement before we get to Oregon? Is the defensive backfield going to have difficulties against a team that we shouldn't really struggle with, especially from a athleticism, physicality perspective? And then the play calling. I know we're not going to get deep into the playbook, game one against UT Martin, but the chess match side of it, that's what I want to see. Like, how are you calling a play when it's typically a blitzing situation? And what are the audibles that the quarterbacks are allowed to run with? That chess match is something that we haven't necessarily seen in a while. So I think that would be a breath of fresh air for everybody out here in Cowboy country as we go knock down this Skyhawk W. That's right. Take control of all of your finances today with Monarch Money. You got to have more money available so you can travel and go catch some of these Cowboy games. Most of us cannot name all of our financial accounts or even necessarily what they're individually worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, whatever. If you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money out on the table. This is where Monarch Money comes into play for you. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or also on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in just minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. This is about maximizing your opportunities, your investments, increasing your life savings, easily reviewing finances with your partner or your financial advisor, keeping a clean, clear view of your financial health and the future that your finances can provide for you. This is a week-to-week and long-term deal. Do not let financial opportunities for you slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first entire year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Head on over there today to take the control that you need. Well, hello, FanDuel. How are you doing today? It is money-making season, so naturally this makes the most amount of sense to talk about FanDuel being the bee's knees for all of your betting needs. College football season is here. The NFL regular season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet's a winner, you get $300 back in bonus bets to use all across the app. It's going to make every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or you're just keeping an eye on the lineup, because you have investment, whether it be fantasy, whether it be parlay, whether it be over-unders. The investment is heavy for you. That's why you got to take some of the load off with FanDuel. If you're ready to play today, download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com, where you can place your first $5 bet and get 300 bones back in bonus bets if your first $5 hauler is a winner. Head on over to FanDuel.com or in the app to get started today. So we're just cruising right along here to the MVPs of the fall. If we look back, we had some MVPs of the spring. Caleb Hicks was an MVP of the spring. He could be, maybe should be a candidate for MVP of the fall as well. But I think we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction, because we typically do an offensive dude, defensive dude, special teams dude, maybe like a freshman dude. I believe that's what we did for the spring. But we've got a co. All right, we're just going to spit it out here. The name that was mentioned the most in conversations with people that had been to practice or people at practice was Christian Fitzpatrick, the wide receiver transfer coming out of Marshall. He was going to be, or is still set to be, that Des Bryant, Justin Blackmon, Tylan Wallace, James Washington style of guy. But a name has emerged as of late. And at one point in time, a few weeks ago, it didn't seem like Terrell Davis was going to be able to pick up all of the playbook and understand all of the nuances and all of the spacing and the differentiation where he needed to be alignment-wise, whether they're in a man coverage, whether they're in zone coverage. But he's apparently picked all that up, because it seems as though, I know the depth chart we put out is purposely misleading in certain areas, but if you do go off of that depth chart that Oklahoma State did put out, it appears as though Terrell Davis, the UCO transfer that had over 1,600 yards receiving last year, led almost all categories for wide receivers in the country if you combine all levels. I think there was one dude that had 1,619 yards. Terrell Davis had 1,609 yards. Maybe that's a little bit of a differentiation there. But nonetheless, Christian Fitzpatrick was the name that just kept popping up, just kept popping up. So naturally, he has to get one of these fall MVP slots, but so does Terrell Davis. The fact that he was able to outperform guys that have already been here and guys that have come in, like Shamar Rigby coming over from Purdue, potentially is below Terrell Davis. Io showed my king. Maybe he's an X, maybe he's a Z, but regardless, he's going to be behind Terrell Davis or Christian Fitzpatrick if you go off of the depth chart that Oklahoma State put out. So offensively, we got a co-MVP thing here for Christian Fitzpatrick, wide receiver out of Marshall, and another wide receiver, Terrell Davis, out of a UCO. Then we got to shift over to the defensive side of the ball. This one, if you're a regular, a.k.a. a regulator, shout out to you guys, by the way. You noticed there's a lot of other Oklahoma State Big 12-oriented podcasts coming out right around football season, also on YouTube. Make sure that you go check those out. We need to bleed as much orange and pump as much orange Kool-Aid as physically possible. But I got to give it up to all of you regulars out here that even in the offseason, when we're downtrodden in basketball or downtrodden in baseball or losing some games in softball, there's still a crew out here of 400 or 500 of you that rock and roll all day, every day. I'm going to find a fun way to do something special for all the regulars at some point in time. I'm working with Locked On doing some things, so stay tuned to that. But anywho, this name's not going to surprise anybody. Matter of fact, for the live side of the comments, go ahead and put your defensive MVP guess in here. Drum roll. It's pretty easy. It's Wendell Gregory. Wendell Gregory is the South Carolina transfer that keeps getting brought up over and over and over. And before Wendell Gregory kind of caught fire, a lot of the talk from the jack position was about Malik Charles, right? The NFL pedigree, comes in, hasn't been playing football for a very long time, comes to Oklahoma State, puts on like 55 pounds pretty quickly, which makes sense, right? He has the physicality and the body type that can pack on the pounds and also keep the muscle. So Malik Charles was a dude that was brought up pretty constantly. The battle that Brandon Rawls and Trip White were having at the outside linebacker spot also could have been in the running here. The emergence of Kale Smith, the fact that Cam Smith was able to hold off guys like J.K. Johnson and Jalen Davies, they could be candidates as well, but it has to be Wendell Gregory. Like, I can only go off of what is being presented to me from people that are there, right? I'm not physically on the sidelines. And from what I've gathered, they've made a concerted effort this year to keep a decent number of people off the sidelines. So it may be a small sample size, but Christian Fitzpatrick was a name mentioned constantly. Wendell Gregory was the next name that was mentioned constantly. And then I think whenever you go to special teams, you know, DJ Duggar is somebody, true freshman, running back, that seems to be potentially carving a nice little name out for himself. Royal Capel, the freshman, might be the only freshman that gets more than the guaranteed 4 games that don't count against your eligibility. Royal could line up in a multitude of areas. Royal could end up even being a holder, right? And that could end up producing something pretty crazy. So you have to factor those guys in. But when it comes to special teams, I think we need to revert back to Parker Robertson. Parker Robertson is one of the coolest stories on the Oklahoma State roster by far. He's one of the coolest stories in the country. In this day and age, traditionally speaking now, if you're not producing within a couple of years, the odds of you sticking at a university for 4, 5, 6 years are kind of falling away. So the fact that Parker Robertson has gone from an undersized walk-on to a scout team dude, to a special teams dude, to a scholarship special teams dude, to a contributor, so much so that now he's playing defensive snaps. Last year, he just kept getting more and more and more opportunities, and he was productive. Now he was able to come in. Obviously, he held off one of the biggest transfer portal player recruits that we've ever gotten in Zaquan Patterson, the safety coming over from Miami. We probably don't let Zaquan walk away, at least temporarily, if we don't have some confidence in some of the other guys, like Parker Robertson. So, with that in mind, my special teams fall MVP probably going to be somebody named Ike Esenwood or Gunnar Wilson. I think both of those dudes, they're competing for that spot behind Brian McCoy. Ike Esenwood may not get as many opportunities in special teams for that very reason, and that should open the door for somebody like a Gunnar Wilson. 6'3", 225 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, was a quarterback, was a tight end, was a safety. People tend to forget that Gunnar Wilson's only been playing linebacker for, this is 2 years now. 2.5, 3 years. Okay, so going on, this will be his 3rd year of his life playing linebacker. If you get somebody like that size, that skill, that speed, and get him out there on special teams, he should be the next Parker Robertson that makes a massive name for himself. So much so that he carves out at least a little bit of PT as the season progresses. So my special teams MVP, it's got to be Gunnar Wilson. And then we'll move on to the young dudes. We mentioned DJ Duggar. We mentioned Royal Capel. I got to give another one here. He might not necessarily see a ton of playing time this year, but when it comes to hands, pure hands talent, somebody that can basically catch almost anything and has a massive catch radius, is Matrell Lopez, the Idabel, Oklahoma native speedster, Mr. Miss You in a phone booth. That dude, not only does he have the ability to cut and juke and get in and out of breaks incredibly fluidly and quickly, the dude's got hands. And that's been synonymous all across fall camp, is Matrell Lopez was catching people's eye just because of his hands, his catch radius. The fact that he didn't necessarily drop passes. Is he going to take time to understand the offense? Sure. Is he going to take time to understand all the route concepts and the leverage necessary to help in the spacing of the route? Sure. There's a lot of stuff he's going to have to learn. But when it comes to just purely hands, it's been pretty widely considered that he has some of the best hands on the team. Again, we have a decent amount of talent at wide receiver. So I don't know that he's in a position to get a lot of PT. But if he does, when he does, there's no doubt that his ability to just make catches in traffic, no matter what's happening around him, that is going to be something that is very visible as the season goes on. Before we get on off of here, ladies and gentlemen, I have to remind you that whether it's inside, outside, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, you're going to have needs. And if you have those needs, you got to get hooked up with Supply House today. The opening whistle is going to blow on the next repair that you need to have done. So stay ahead of the game. Get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see what parts can be at your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business are available to you. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects into the future, while their leading industry customer service will always protect your blind side. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. It's going to be a game changer for you. The Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother just for you. Make sure that you join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5, that is SHCOLLEGE5, for 5% off your first order. Give us Supply House at supplyhouse.com today for real people that need and utilize real services. All right, we're on the last leg here before we get geared up for game time, and that is the fact that, once again, KU, the Rock Chalk Jayhawks that currently house our dude Lyric Rawls, they're evidently in contention, or at least in conversation, for a move to the Big Ten. I don't get it. I mean, I do get it, right? KU's definitely building something pretty spectacular right now. They've got a lot of involvement. They've got a lot of engagement. They've clearly got Boone Pickens level dollar bills. So the allure of KU plus their research academic prowess could be something that the Big Ten is beneficiaries of. However, I feel like KU is already a good fit for the Big 12. Their fan base is just now kind of getting into the rhythm of being successful on the football field. Them being the dominant basketball brand of the Big Ten, I don't know that it's all that important. Most KU fans I've talked to would prefer to stay in the Big 12. However, that kind of financial incentive and security for the future is difficult to turn away from. So hopefully that's not even an ordeal that we have to work through. However, the other team that was brought up was Utah by Oklahoma State Cowboy himself, Brett Murphy. He mentioned how Utah was the name that was brought up. And you know what? If that's true, goodbye, good riddance, see you later. Utah has been the wannabe OU since they've gotten into the conference. Even before they even came into the conference, they were already talking about this is a trash truck stop conference, and we don't need to be a part of it, and we don't want to be there, and blah, 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 blah. And they continuously prop up this idea that they're Big Ten ready. I don't get it. I don't see it. I think that would be a ridiculous concept for the Big Ten to even entertain. They were just a G5 program, 15 years ago? Yeah, they won a couple conference titles of a conference so good they died. And then their first year in the Big 12, after bumping them gums and talking all that crap, they go 5-7. So why the Big Ten would even entertain the idea of bringing Utah in, I think it's beyond laughable. But God forbid Utah gets good, right? God forbid that Utah actually ever does get good in this conference. We will never hear the end of it, and they will be just like Texas, hooting and hollering about how they deserve a bigger share and they deserve more money and they deserve all of this and that and the other. So prevent the ridiculousness before it even starts. If there's any validity to Utah going to the Big Ten, ship them mother truckers out of here, and let's keep Jayhawk Nation as happy as physically possible. Love KU, love them in the conference. I make fun of the Adidas thing, but there's not very many serious programs that rock with Adidas, so it is what it is. We love KU around here, right? You guys know that KU is like my second Big 12 team that I like to rock with. Well before Lyric ever went there, well before I had the pleasure of doing some work traveling, covering 7-on-7 with Tommy Dunn Jr.'s dad, who was a phenomenal photographer, by the way. But there's a lot of reasons why KU staying in the Big 12 makes the most amount of sense. And speaking of the Big 12, the Cowboys are not the only ones playing on a random Thursday to kick off the season. We've also got some other Big 12 foes. UCF gets to play a game today. The Knights that are not golden will also be on ESPN Plus, taking on Jacksonville State. The former Rich Rod-led Jackson State squad probably should not have enough to hang with UCF. If they do, it would be a disappointment. After the right during the Oklahoma State UT Martin game, Stephen F. Austin heads on down to Houston. The Connor Weigman, Boogie Johnson era needs to kick off in a big way against a decent Lumberjack squad. Houston should be able to get it done pretty big here. And then the creme de la creme for tonight is Nebraska at Cincinnati. Give me UCF. I don't feel super confident about it, but since Rich Rod did leave Jacksonville State, and he did take some dudes with him to West Virginia, and they had some other top-notch guys transfer out of Jacksonville State, I feel like UCF, even though they're all brand new, they should be better than Jackson State. So give me the Knights 24-17 over Jacksonville State. I've given my prediction to Oklahoma State. I think we could blow the ever-loving doors off of them. If you watched the live show last night, we talked a little bit about Hauss, a little bit about the O-line, a little bit about Zane, a little bit about the things that we've been hearing. But we also talked about score predictions. And I said 34-14 because I think we're going to do a ton of rotating. So I don't think the objective in this game is to absolutely blow the doors off of UT Martin. Of course, we want to win. Of course, we want to look impressive. But I don't think we're going to try to absolutely take them behind the woodshed and teach them a thing or 17. For that, I expect a lot of the backups to be in like third stringer type dudes in the fourth quarter. We may not score a bunch then. We may give up a couple scores then. That's why I have 34-14. Stephen F. Austin at Houston. I got to have faith in the Willie Fritz system. I got to have faith in Boogie doing his daggone thing. Jason Queso Brooks, the story on him in the fall has been massive. He's one of their top transfer portal guys that are producing on the field. I want to see that kick off in a big way. Give me Houston 31-14 over Stephen F. Austin. Then we have Nebraska at Cincy. Nebraska should win this ball game. I mean, that just, it is what it is. They should. And if Scott Satterfield wants to potentially put himself in a position to secure his job after this season, kind of a big one. And Nebraska being an old school Big 12 school with a new school, you know what I'm saying, a new Big 12 school, we're going to be going hard for Cincy, but I do think Nebraska has a little bit too much to get this done. So give me the Cornhuskers in this thing. I'll say 27-17. 27-17. Give me, begrudgingly, Nebraska. The Big 12 needs to win these marquee games. If we do that, it could change some of the narrative and mix up some of the perceptions currently about the Cowboys or about the Big 12 in general. So Cincy taking down Nebraska would go a very, very, very long way in adding instantaneous credibility a little bit more to this conference before we get some of these other big-time matchups like Oklahoma State, Oregon, and North Carolina versus TCU, Auburn versus Baylor, Colorado. That is tomorrow. Okay, yeah. So we got some more stuff to hammer out tomorrow, prediction-wise. Let me know down in the comment section for all you fine folks out here on YouTube. What do you think the day is going to look like? What are your score predictions? And all you fine folks out here in podcast country, I reckon that's all we're going to have for this one right here. Go ahead and hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe. That's the fun stuff. My podcast and people out there. Without you, this would be nothing. I would be nothing. So I appreciate what you do. So go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.